Welcome back, guys, to the Prowler Podcast. Tonight, we're going to feature a special guest, Vince Sullivan, who is currently a linebacker at Southern University of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, this episode of the Prowler highlights another incredible journey out of the JUCO process. So, our guest, Vince Sullivan, is going to show how the JUCO route isn't a last resort, and it's quickly becoming one of the strongest pathways to the Division I level, honestly, guys. So, with the ever-changing landscape of the transfer portal NIL, Vince's journey is a powerful reminder of how many opportunities can come out of the JUCO route. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Vince as he introduces himself, and we'll jump into tonight's podcast, guys.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Vince Sullivan. I'm originally from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but I grew up in Denton, Texas.
Awesome, man. Surprising to stay in Hattiesburg with Oak Grove, man. That's a powerhouse down there.
Oh, no, my mom married my father, and we moved because of military. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense, man. That's making sense. But hey, Texas football is different too, as well. So
sure.
But jumping into tonight's first podcast segment is kind of highlighting how COVID impacted your recruiting journey. My brother graduated in the same kind of year as you did, and it made his path a lot different as well. So, how did COVID change the opportunities that were on the table for you at the time?
With COVID happening, giving guys extra years, it kind of got the trickle-down effect of scholarships getting cut, how many numbers they could bring in certain classes. So in my class, I kind of ran into the problem of, we're not taking a guy this class, or somebody already got taken like early on. It was a bigger name. So that's kind of how my recruiting got messed up on that end.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely cut down a lot of high school opportunities, and it still is, honestly, because ultimately after COVID happened, the portal got opened up wide open, and the NIL got spurred on at the same time. So it's changed the whole dynamic. And many high school recruits, if they're not a 4 or 5 star, they're not going to the D1 level anymore, So, what emotions did you go through when you realized that path you thought you'd take suddenly wasn't available anymore?
At first, it was kind of confusing, kind of disappointed because, you worked your whole life to kind of get that dream. I've always had the dream of going straight Division I. So when it wasn't able to happen right away out of high school, it was kind of disappointing, but I kind of leaned on the people in my inner circle, and they gave me great support. So I kind of turned that factor.
Yeah, no, that's a true remaining factor is always have that support group, because if you don't have the right support group, you can go down the wrong path real quick,
Right.
I'm sure you've seen teammates do the same along the way, so. But, what ultimately led you to Kilgore Community College, and what were your first impressions when you got there?
It came down to 2 JUCOs. It was out of Trinity Valley and Kilgore. I fell in love with the head coach and my DC at Kilgore on my visit. Probably the best visit I've had, Division I, JUCO, no matter what. The love I got on that visit was second to none. So it made it, that decision was really, really easy for me. It wasn't too far from home. My parents come to every game. So it was a simple decision for me.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. Especially to stay close to home, where you can always have that, family relationship to lean on during the tough times, But talk about that JUCO grind, because JUCO ball is totally different than a lot of people realize. I mean, there's a lot of D1 talent come out there every year. I mean, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the college sport, Cam Newton, came out of Blinn College. So kind of talk about that grind and what players can kind of expect at that JUCO level.
It's definitely a man's game, both on and off the field. You have a lot of time on your hands. It's going to allow you to mature. It made me mature a lot faster, making sure I'm making the right decisions, because it's easy to make the wrong decision when you don't really have a lot of stuff going on in the small area. So it really was just a grind, making sure you stay focused. It really made me fall in love with football even more, because it wasn't a lot of stuff to do. So the free time I had, I kind of dove really into my playbook, watched film, and kind of took that next step on the mental aspect of the game.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, JUCO is definitely, it's going to show you who the players are that really love the sport. That's ultimately what's going to happen at that level. But no, looking back, how do you think the JUCO helped keep your football dreams alive when doors were closing elsewhere?
Like I said again, I kind of fell in love with football even more. Didn't have a lot of time on my hands, like I said before. So just just not having time on my hands, only thing I could think about was football. So just being out there and being able to do football every day and not having to worry about everything else was really easy for me.
No, that's good. What was the recruiting process? Did you play both years at Kilgore, or did you only play one?
I played both years at Kilgore.
What was the recruiting process like when you finally came out of there? Was it different than the high school process? And I'm guessing it was due to COVID being when it happened when you came out of high school. But was there a big different factors you saw that you could kind of tell athletes to be aware of?
I kind of just with my first recruiting process and going into JUCO, I kind of knew what I wanted out of a program, and just with the fluctuation of colleges coming through, I could thin out the people who really wanted me, the people who really loved me, from the people who just wanted conversations. So that was different in that aspect, and then it was really in the recruiting aspect on the field wise. I would say it was more wanting to come in and play now from the JUCO level compared to high school, because high school they talk about developing, or you could be this guy. But coming from JUCO is more of like, oh, I want you to come in and be that guy. So that was different on that aspect.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I grew up in Memphis, so a lot of guys that didn't have the grades and stuff, they went to JUCOs in Mississippi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we all know Mississippi JUCOs, they're producing D1 talent across the board every year. That is the Mississippi and Kansas are competing with the most JUCO athletes every year. And Texas has slowly blossomed into that as well. But being so close to those JUCOs in Mississippi, it shows you a different level of potential, because most of those schools are filled with either D1 dropouts or, potential D1 prospects. So, people don't realize the talent level is down there until Last Chance U came out and showed what East Mississippi was producing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize that every year. I mean, there's guys that come out of the year every year that makes a change at the D1 level. And it's become a more popular route for, Division I coaches to recruit now, because you kind of hit it on it. But a D1 coach is going to take a JUCO player over a high school player any day, right?
Right.
Because not only have you proven yourself academically in a college environment, but you also got bigger and faster in a college environment as well.
Yep.
So, but jumping into the segment 2 tonight is redefine the JUCO to the D1 path, and it's a big topic nowadays. But a lot of people still view JUCO as a last resort. How do you respond when you hear that?
I kind of take it as a little bit of disrespect, because once again, people don't realize the type of talent level that we do have on the JUCO. And for me, it wasn't a last resort for me. I had other schools that wanted me, but it just wasn't the right fit. It's just all about the fit at the end of the day, and where you could go get your education for free. So,
for sure. And, I'm curious to get your take on this. And we didn't make this a spotlight tonight, but we have in previous podcast. Is what do you think about JUCOs potentially getting 1 year back no matter what from the NCAA level?
Me personally, I would love it, because that means I could work towards my master's degree for free and don't have to worry about paying for it. And then also just having another year to be around the guys I've been around for 2 years now. Just especially my younger guys this year, seeing them come in and just being able to have 1 more year of that brotherhood is just it'd be second to none. So.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Well, Diego Pavia has already said that he's going for his second year after this season. So who knows? It might turn the tide for everybody. So, But in what ways did JUCO prepare you for Division I level, both on and off the field? You say
on the field, I felt like I had to mature a lot faster, because again, that talent gap from high school going to the JUCO, of course, having people that was FBS Power 5 bounce backs. Me, I kind of went early. I graduated early in high school, so getting up there in the spring, it was like I had to man up. Like, it's guys that are a lot older. You got to hold your own. At the end of the day, nobody's gonna sit there and hold your hand through it. So it made me mature on that aspect. And then off the field, I'll say just that independency away from my parents, being able to just find out who I was as a man and as a person. I feel like it made me mature in that way, with a lot of times on my hands, making sure I'm not doing the wrong thing, diving in my playbook, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we know those wrong things can be a very influential level at that side of school. When I went to played in college, it was a different environment. There's parties every night. There's
Yep.
everything getting thrown at you, especially nowadays with NIL money.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of people inviting you to this stuff because they know you got money, and if you're that player, you're that player. At the end of the day, so you definitely got to keep yourself in the books and in the playbook as well, because if you don't, there's a lot of players that get left in the dust real quick. So. But with the transfer portal, NIL changing the recruiting landscape, how do you see JUCO becoming an even bigger factor for athletes moving forward now?
I think high school players now more than ever is going to start considering the JUCO route. Not really as a last result, but more of like a stepping stone as like a prep year. Of course, with like the ruling with like Diego getting that year back for being in JUCO, depending on what they say, I think that high school level, I think those kids would benefit from it. And then, of course, like just people that may be struggling in the program they had or gotten into some trouble, just being able to go back JUCO and have it not count against them. I think that's going to be big too.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. If that goes through for all JUCO athletes, I mean, the JUCO doors are wide open at that point. And I don't know if you know this, but Mississippi only can take 6 to 7 athletes out of state every year.
Yeah, that's how it was for us too.
That's the same way for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so states like Tennessee, we don't have JUCO football, so we rely on Mississippi and Kansas ultimately be our feeding grounds for JUCO ball, and it'll be an interesting take, and it'll be interesting to see if more states start going the JUCO football route, because if it does turn into that, there's going to be more money to be potentially made at the JUCO level, right?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting next 2 to 3 years to see what shapes out of that decision, for sure. So. Well, what advice would you give a high school athlete who feels overlooked and is considering the JUCO route ultimately?
I would say bet on yourself, believe in yourself. The talent level is there. The exposure is there for sure. I know when I was in JUCOs, coaches coming in and out of practice every day. So you'll have the eyes definitely on you to prove yourself. So I'd say bet on yourself.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, And plus, it's going to be, when you go the JUCO route, it's all about you, and it's not about everybody else kind of at that point. It's, are you going to grind to make it yourself? Because the coaches at JUCO level is not going to hold your hand. They're not getting paid enough to do that. So you got to be that person yourself, and you got to keep yourself responsible. So, but we'll end this podcast segment at this, and then we'll jump into the spotlight tonight. But what is the biggest misconception you think about JUCO that you want to clear up today for everyone?
I believe that JUCO players are misunderstood. I think a lot of people outside looking in thinks when people say like last resort, they think that we're just a bunch of troubled people or people that made mistakes. But I just say we're just people that's finding our way, maturing, and trying to get back on the right track or trying to get to where we ultimately want to be in life.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. That's it is a narrative, because I think the Netflix show Last Chance gave it that narrative because they saw all the history of all the players that went to those schools. But ultimately, it's not. There's a lot of other players that go to those schools that's not even from that path, And there's a lot of schools that don't even take those type of players as well at the JUCO level. So, but Vince, we always do this on our podcast, and we do the football pick'ems, and then when it comes basketball season, we do the basketball pick'ems as well. But this week, there's a lot of big games in the news. Last week there was Georgia versus Alabama, and Alabama made a big statement. So the first pick this week is Iowa State versus Cincinnati, and who are you going with, man, in that game?
I'm gonna go Cincinnati. I kind of got a little look at the highlights they played from last week when they were the underdogs. So I'm gonna ride the Cincinnati train.
Yeah, actually, one of their star linebacker, Jake Golda, he is good friends with my brother, and they both grew up playing ball together, and they definitely look a lot better than I thought they would this year, and their quarterback's actually playing really good ball. But I think what Iowa State did to Arizona last week, I don't think they stand a chance, because Iowa State looks like clear cut. It's going to be them and Texas Tech on the crash course for the Big 12 championship for sure. So I'm going to take Iowa State. But, the big game this week where college game day is at, is Vanderbilt versus Alabama. You know, Diego Pavia, we've already talked about him tonight. He's putting up numbers like we've never seen before. He's like a Johnny Manziel right now. And that's an inspirational story to all JUCO athletes right now as well, because I mean, he nobody expected him to be this player right now. So who do you think is gonna win that Vanderbilt and Alabama game?
I say I'm taking Bama. I don't see anybody stopping that offense right now.
You don't think?
I don't think so. I got Bama on the road. I think Bama wins out.
You think Bama could keep up with a team that's averaging 68 points a game right now?
I'm saying at the end of the day, it's Vandy. I know people say Nick Saban's not at Bama, but me growing up, I never saw Bama really lose to Vandy, so I don't see it happening again.
Well, they did last year, and it's going to make year 2 for them. It's going to make year 2.
I don't think so.
Hey, Diego Pavia is another breed. Just remember, they lost to Thomas Castellanos. They should have lost to Georgia last weekend if Georgia's offensive coordinator knew how to call a play on 4th down. I mean, we ran an outside zone. It's kind of stupid, you know. Anybody knew that was coming. So I'm going to be honest with you. Alabama slipped out last week with a win. They won't do it this week because Diego Pavia is a lot better quarterback than Thomas Castellanos at Florida State. So, but you know, the next game, which this team last weekend made a big statement, is Notre Dame. But they play Boise State this weekend, and Boise State's kind of bounced back pretty well since their first game. But who are you rolling with this game, especially after Notre Dame made that big statement against Arkansas last weekend?
I'm going Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think that's a clear-cut team that after what they did last week to Arkansas, I mean, they ultimately got the coach fired up there and the whole staff pretty much. So I think that team's got a very tough schedule, and they've proven themselves that they're still a contender, you know.
Yep.
So, but, you know, Virginia coming off that big win last week, they got Louisville this week, which Louisville's a pretty solid team as well. Who do you have between Virginia and Louisville?
Oh, that's going to be a hot take. I watched Virginia last week. They have that running back that came from North Carolina Central last year. He was giving Florida State a run for their money. And then also I got a couple of teammates that play at what game we were talking about? I'm sorry.
Virginia versus Louisville.
Oh yeah, I got a teammate from last year that plays for Louisville. So it's I'm gonna take Virginia. I think Virginia is gonna keep it rolling. I'm gonna take Virginia over Louisville.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Virginia as well, just based off of the quarterback play last weekend. I mean, he came from North Texas last year. I think his name is Chandler Morris.
Mm-hmm.
And he proved last weekend that he could compete. So I think he's going to put his name on the map even more this weekend. So I think that'll be I'm not saying it'll be a cakewalk for Virginia, but I think they can cruise through that game pretty well. So, but you know, this next game, which I don't think this team stands a chance, but I think Texas Tech's quarterback's out this week. Actually, it's Texas Tech versus Houston, and Houston had almost a loss last week against, if I recall correctly, UCLA, who's 0-5 now. So, who you rolling with in that game?
I'm gonna take because I watched them struggle against Oregon State and almost lose to Oregon State.
Who, Houston?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, both of these teams are undefeated. So, I think Texas Tech's a better team just because they've been cruising through all their games. But Houston is undefeated as well, and they play at home as well. So, I
watch them dominate Colorado at home as well.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna take Houston with home field advantage.
You just doing that from Texas, right, man? You can't make anybody bad back at home, right?
No.
So, the next game we got is Minnesota versus Iowa State. And, Ohio State last week, they kind of struggled with Washington a little bit, but they're back at home now. I think they cruised through this game. So, who you think you got in this game?
I think it's going to be Ohio State, and I think they're making a statement. This is going to be a statement game.
Yeah, I think Minnesota can. It'll depend on what Minnesota team shows up, honestly, because Minnesota is that tough kind of SEC ball running team. But they're going to have to bring it this game. They can't let this team slip out to a lead because they don't have the offense that can catch up real quick. So, But the game that I thought College Game Day should have went to this week is Miami versus Florida State.
Yes.
I mean, I get the Vanderbilt and versus Alabama hype, but this game right here has got two of the best quarterbacks in college football right now, hands down. Carson Beck from Georgia, he left Georgia last year. Thomas Castellanos from Boston College, they've both been electric this year. I'm picking Miami just based off of what Carson Beck's been looking like this year. He just looks unstoppable, honestly. But Florida State can also be unpredictable, especially with Gus Malzahn as a OC, and he's got a quarterback that he loves to play with. So, who are you picking with in this game?
I'm gonna go Florida State. I think the best thing happening to them was losing to Virginia last week and having that embarrassment. So I think them being back in front of home crowd and having an opponent like Miami right after, I think I'm gonna give it to Florida State.
Yeah, I definitely think Florida State could slip up and win that game. I don't think it'll be a lopsided game at all. I think it'll be down to the final wire. Which quarterback makes the mistake? It'll depend on which quarterback fumbles or throws an interception ultimately. So, but the last game of the week in our pick'ems is Mississippi State versus Texas A&M, which Mississippi State is coming off that heartbreaking loss to Tennessee, which ultimately should have won if their quarterback didn't choke it away. But Mississippi State is a very young team. They look very promising this year, and Texas A&M also looks okay, but they also struggled last week against Auburn team that Auburn only had 22 yards total on offense, and they lost by 6. So I am not too high on Texas A&M after that win. I don't see it, so I'm taking Mississippi State any day. I think they cakewalk through this game.
I don't know. Like, I've always remembered Mississippi State as being like kind of like a bottom feeder in the SEC. And I think Marcel Reed is a really good quarterback. That's one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football that I watch. So I think Texas A&M gets the job done.
Marcel Reed is a good quarterback, but after last week's performance, did you watch last week?
I watched the highlights from the game. I didn't get to watch the game live.
Man, it looked like you could got around that edge against some of those tackles. Their tackles did not block well at all. So, and I know Auburn's defense is, one of the top in the SEC this year, but if their offense only got 20 total yards the whole game and you only beat them by 6, it's not a good showing. It's not a good showing.
Yeah, but like my coach likes to say, a win is a win is a win. So as long as we're glad to get out with the W, so that's all that matters.
No, you're right about that. You're right about that, man. So, but we're going to jump into tonight's Prowler question of the day, which is kind of wrapping up our podcast tonight. But with the transfer portal and NIL changing recruiting, do you think JUCO will become more so which one of these paths? A bigger pathway to D1, about the same as before, or less important than before, or are you kind of unsure where the ball falls there?
I think it'd be more important. I think people will start, especially like the high schoolers, of course, start using it. I think guys that are in the portal that kind of sit there for a little while. I think with them making if they do make a ruling on JUCOs not counting towards your years, I think guys that are in the portal will start leaning towards more JUCO, kind of getting that game experience, like the in-game experience and coming back up. So I think it'll become bigger no matter what.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that. I think it's definitely going to become a more bigger pathway. And I also won't be surprised if more schools start offering the JUCO football pathway now.
Mm-hmm.
Just based off of, how much potential there is there for money revenue ultimately, because Southwest Community College here in Memphis, they could benefit tremendously from a community college with JUCO feeding level to Memphis now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Memphis football is becoming more prominent year by year now. I mean, they produce talent after talent. So there's schools like that I definitely think that could turn the corner and start opening that pathway even more for them. So, but we do a weekly quote each week, and this week's quote is by Jerry Rice, who came out of Mississippi Valley State, which is a SWAC school just like you.
Yep.
He made it to the NFL, probably one of the best NFL receivers we'll ever witness play the game. But this is a quote by him. He said, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can." And I think that speaks volume because what you don't do, you'll never know what you can't do above others, So, but with that being said, Vince, do you have any closing remarks for any high school athletes or transfer portal athletes you want to share?
Always keep God first, because there's nothing in life that you'll be able to do without God. And then I would say lean on your inner circle when times get rough. Don't listen to the outside noise. The only people that matter is the people that's closest to you. And then third thing I want to say is just believe in yourself. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. So that's how I'm ended.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. You definitely players need to realize if you rely on God, that He'll open up a lot of doors for you nowadays. It's speaks volume, and a lot of players don't realize that they rely on a lot of different other influences in life. So it's a good closing remark, man. And we thank you for coming on the podcast, and we thank everyone for tuning into the Prowler podcast. The podcast will also be posted on TikTok and YouTube as a recorded version afterwards. So if you want to check it out afterwards, feel free to go to our channel and look at it. But we always be excited to continue expanding our knowledge and everyone else's knowledge of our platform and partner with those who are truly serious about taking their game to the next level. But as always, stay connected, stay driven, and keep pushing towards your dreams, guys, because we cannot wait to see what's next for everyone. Until next time, guys, Prowler up.